Hello everybody and welcome to the Punter, your home of the best betting advice you're going to find anywhere. A very, very happy new year to you, our first show of 2012. Hope you had a great festive season. You ate too much, didn't you? I know. I've got a great panel with me as ever. It's a big welcome to Neil Channing, our resident punter.
Hello.
Alan Alger and of course Russ Wiseman. How are you guys?
Good form, Nick. Good form. Great festive punting period for punters as much as bookies as well.
Was it really? I heard it was more.
I think more for bookies.
Yeah, we had a great time. Let's be upfront about this now. We were speaking off air, Alan. Now we thought we'd better come clean about this. It's been a wonderful golden period, actually. If you're a football punter and you back the fancy teams. This has been a desperate time.
I'm surprised. I thought when the camera panned across, these two were going to be there with their glass of champagne, a big fat cigar. How was Christmas for you, boys?
That's back in the green room. That's back in the green room.
Do you know what? We've petitioned the Premier League already to have 2 seasons per year, and every team has to play every 2 days.
Yeah.
Mixes up the results. It's great.
Exactly what you want, right?
Yeah.
Any joy at all for punters? I mean, Cato Star won. That must be nice for them.
Well, actually, in terms of the racing, obviously the big day's racing was Kempton and Boxing Day. That was actually a fantastic day for punters. Every favourite bar Cato Star winning, and of course, Cato was backed off the board.
It wasn't untouched.
To be honest, isn't that just every day on this jump season at the moment? The favourite wins like every race in the last 2 months, it seems like.
Yeah, that's been the period where they've got it back, Nick. And like Neil says, I mean, it's been a real golden period for people backing the fancied horses in the big races. So, but I have to say that was outweighed massively by the sporting and football results. You know, Phil Taylor getting chinned in the darts wasn't exactly bad news for us either.
Yeah, we have to talk about the darts because I know that you all enjoyed it, and from a betting point of view, it was good for you, but a lot of fun for punters as well.
It is. I mean, the thing is, it's scheduled at the right time. The PDC, they really get it right. They market it right. Sky do a fantastic job of the coverage, and all we've got to do is offer prices, and everything just comes into place there.
And Neil made a really good point actually on the Punter a few weeks ago. I mean, it is just teed up for punters to play in running just before the event. It's absolutely perfect for that, and we saw some incredible in-play games with guys who at one stage 50-1 on getting beat, guys at 50-1 against winning. I mean, it was really incredible stuff. And like you said, Neil, it just measured up for brilliantly.
I'm missing the darts so much. I mean, obviously we've got the Lakeside inferior tournament. I think it's reasonable to say coming up on Saturday. I can barely name 5 players in it. I guarantee I'll be having a bet in every single
exactly.
game.
Later on, I'm going to make you pick one.
No problem at all.
Let's say hello to our other punting expert, the betting butler. Nigel Sealey should be on the line as well. Find out how his festive
loves
period
his
was.
arrows, this boy.
How are you, Nigel? Happy New Year to you.
How you doing, guys?
Not bad.
How was your festive period?
Not so good, really, mate. I've had a terrible end of the year and a terrible start to the year, but nothing changes there, I'm afraid. But
is that football? Is that football related?
Yeah, a bit of everything, really. I mean, the football, the celebrity Big Brother, the celebrity reality TV shows haven't been that great. Football was terrible. Tennis season started off not with a great start for me. So really, all looking forward to the FA Cup, really, because I think there's some absolute pearls this week to get my teeth into, get some of them readies back.
Yeah, we'll definitely get onto that. Now, we just need to wrap up what's happened with the football, because over the festive period, things went back and forth in terms of the Premier League. How's it finished up, Nigel?
It's finished. Man City have won. It's all done. I think they had the Man U end of season party the other day, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think Manchester City are in obviously the driving seat going into the new year. The thing that you got to ask yourself is if Manchester United were in this position, what price would they be? And we said all the way through that Manchester City represent some great value, and I don't see any reason why even at 1 to 2 or 8 to 15, whatever that kind of price you get on the exchanges, I think that represents absolutely first-class value, because this Manchester United side, as we said for so many weeks, are a team in turmoil. They've got so many injuries, and the performance against Newcastle shows they've got big problems. And if they're going out to buy Frank Lampard, which is allegedly going to be happening, or there's going to be a bid, that's a team in drastic problem, taking on a man who's probably 4 years past his best, or took a couple of seasons past his best at least. So I think Manchester City at 1 to 2 still makes one of the best bets of the season. Because if the boot was on the other foot, what price would Man United be? I'll ask the boys in the studio, but I think they'd probably be about 4 on, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean,
what would they say 4 on off the top of my head?
Absolutely, and in terms of calibre, track record and history, you'd
possibly
have to say
shorter,
that,
actually. Possibly shorter.
No question about it.
How much of that is opinion and how much of that is weight of money, that there would just be more money for me? How much is it bookies?
Not so much, because I suppose this season, if we were now in this position, the 2 teams that were backed at the start of the year, start of the season, were Manchester City and Liverpool. So if you're saying you're switching those 2 teams, then City and Liverpool obviously quite a way out of it. We'd probably be trying to get some money in the satchel on United at this point in time.
Okay. Now, I desperately need to hear from somebody who's actually done well versus the bookies over Christmas. So we're going to talk to Flash, I think. Gordon Watson, hopefully, will also be on the line. And he had a very good Christmas. How are you doing, Flash?
Yeah, I'm good, lads. Happy New Year.
All right, Flash,
Happy New Year. Tell us about your massive successes. People that watch the show regularly will already know, but fill us in.
Yeah, we did all right on Boxing Day. We tipped a few draws and under 2.5 goals, and the main bet went in. So, yeah, it was good. We dodged a few fireworks, so leave the big teams alone, and like Channers, leave the small teams alone.
Okay, well, we can just have a quick look at
Get
exactly
it
what
quietly,
your tips
Flash.
were.
Some of us were watching Doctor Who while you were doing this.
Well, let's have a look at what Flash did do. His Flash's 5 went 4 for 5, basically.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we got one of them wrong. I mean, we got Millwall and Portsmouth wrong, but we did say it'd be under 2.5 goals, and we went for a 0-0 draw, and it came up 83rd minute winner. So if you came back with the under 2.5 goals, you was in front. We got the Newcastle game, and no one wanted Newcastle at Bolton, but I didn't see Bolton scoring, so Newcastle became a good bet around 15 to 8, 2 to 1. The Sunderland-Everton game was the main one, because we thought Sunderland to go 1-0 up. We thought they wouldn't have enough to go and get the second, which they didn't, and that meant that the 1-1 and the draw both paid off, so that was good. All round, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 7, whichever way you want to look at it, it came up trumps for us.
Yeah, pretty nice. And I do need to give you a bit of credit as well, because you've been opposing Phil Taylor almost every time we've had you on, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this year, and I'd go as far as saying that the darts this year was the best sporting drama of the year. Every single game, near enough, went to the wire. I heard one of the boys say about the in-play betting. That's one way to get absolutely burnt in the darts, because 1 minute someone would be 100 to 1 on, and they'd end up getting beat. So if you came out on the right side with them, then you've done really well.
Yeah, tough to do. Well, you did, Flash, so congratulations, and we'll hear from you later in the show with your picks for this week.
Cheers, boys.
All right, nice. One thing I wanted to talk about, we've talked about the Premier League a little bit. We still think Man City are value, right? That's the general consensus. We'll have a quick look at what the odds are right now after the festive fixtures, and just confirmation that they're 2 to 1 on with both of you.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair price. And like Al said, I mean, I don't think this is so much to do with weight of money, but what we have seen over this period is that City aren't completely, invulnerable, are they? I mean, they did lose against Sunderland in that game, but I do think they look like really strong favourites. And right now, United, I mean, that game against Newcastle, let's be honest about it, if that was Villa playing, we'd be saying how desperate Villa were. I mean, it was just awful, wasn't it? The worst we've seen United in many, many years. So if it wasn't for the fact this guy was at the helm, you'd really be writing them off and probably making them 4 to 1 chances, really.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is the time of year that you also start to look at the remaining fixtures that the teams have leading up. And Tottenham are 10 to 1 there with us, but they have some very hard fixtures coming up. They haven't got many of their tough ones out of the way yet. City have got a few of their tough ones out of the way, so you would say that 2 to 1 on doesn't have many hurdles to overcome between now and the end of May. And United, they're pretty mixed. They've played a lot of the bigger teams at home, but they still have to travel to places. So I think it's balanced enough to say that I can't back Manchester United at that price. If you think that Tottenham are no threat whatsoever, the other 3 at the bottom there are only in there for each way purposes. So City do have to be value at 2 to 1 on still.
Excellent. Now, another season-long market, which we haven't actually talked about on the punter yet, is the Golden Boot market, which I think is a bit of fun, and also it's a decent-sized market. People bet on this season.
Well, funny enough, Nick, you say that, but I actually believe that the shrewder punters, the likes of a Neil Sealey, for example, would probably focus more on a market like this than they would on the outright. Was that fair to say, Neil? Because I know you've played in this market before in the past.
This is a market I never would look at until about this time of the year normally, and my normal strategy would be to look each way, because I think the bookies quite often don't really realise how much of a short field it becomes quite early on. They still sort of think, well, there's thousands of players that could possibly be in it. And actually, you know, we haven't actually got the goals on here, but we were talking about this actually just a couple of weeks ago off air, and I was saying I thought Van Persie was about 4 clear, I think, and you could still back him at 13-8.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason for that was obviously the constant question that hangs over Van Persie as to whether he's actually going to complete a whole season without getting a big injury sometime in there.
That's interesting. So if he didn't have that injury history,
if he didn't have that injury history, he would be about 2-1 on now. Really? Absolutely, no question about it. And at the time that Neil flagged it up, he would have been about evens. But there is a stat concerning Arsenal this season. You know, I've sort of rubbished them, and hopefully a few people got on the Fulham win.
You definitely got it right.
You've definitely got it right. Let's be clear about that. You've got that right.
This is the first time since World War II that Arsenal have got to the new year with only one player scoring more than 4 goals for them in all competitions. That is, in all competitions.
Did they have a good World War II?
That is.
It was mixed. Dominant. Nigel, what do you think about the Golden Boot
They came in just above France today.
I agree with the boys. I mean, Robin Van Persie, bar an injury, should win it. But, you know, Aguero's been banging in the goals. The trouble with him is that he's going to be rested for key matches coming up, as well as Rooney. I mean, this is the thing. So for me, if there was any each way, I think Demba Ba each way could make appeal, but he's going to miss games for the African Nations Cup. So even look further down the field. I mean, what else is there? There's some big prices there. You know, you've got Daniel Sturridge, you've got a few for Chelsea, maybe at a big price. Balotelli, if he plays, but I think it's Van Persie's to lose, isn't it? I mean, if he gets injured, he's in trouble. But barring fitness, barring any injury doubts, I think Van Persie wins it in a canter, really, because of the doubts of the other teams.
If you can find an each way one, Nigel, I think they're still betting a quarter first 3 on this, which, you know, if you think in a horse race with 8 runners and a novice hurdle, they're going to be betting a 5th first 3. This is possibly a 6 or 7 runner race with a quarter first 3.
Well, I think there's really only 4 realistically channels up there.
Well, I quite like the sound of a 4-runner race with a quarter first 3.
Yeah, well, that case, I think Wayne Rooney will probably be the each way, because they can't afford to not play him, is it? The only trouble is they're playing him in midfield now, etc., etc. But you know, if they need goals, Wayne Rooney's your man. And I think if you're looking for each way purposes, Rooney's got to be the each way bet.
I think after Berbatov's performance the other day at Newcastle, when he was subbed, I didn't even realise he was actually on the pitch, and I think they cannot afford to play Rooney any deeper than they have been already. So that might be an angle for the new year.
4-1 Blue Square. If only we knew someone that worked at Blue Square.
And how much interest is there in this market around this time of year?
Well, I think Neil's hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't think people have been playing heavily on it up until now, but you know, now that the more professional kind of punters are starting to take notice, formulating some opinions. You've got the Butler there. He's kind of it's on his radar. I think we'll see the market tighten up a little bit. Certainly, I feel like pushing out a few of the people off that screen now and shutting the guys on it after what Neil said. But I mean, you know, it's you know. The point Al makes about the injuries is a massive, wasn't it? If Van Persie gets any kind of niggle now, 11-10 all of a sudden could become you know, 13-2 if he's out for the season. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? So I mean, you know, there is a real vulnerability about these bets, I think.
Yeah, it's totally fascinating to me that his price is so different because of his history. I think that's fascinating stuff. I hope you found it interesting too. It's FA Cup weekend. Should be some value around somewhere. We'll try and find it for you. Stay with us, and we'll do the FA Cup and weekend football after the break. Welcome back to the Punter. We're doing New Year's Eve football and it's FA Cup weekend. So perhaps giant killing weekend, but what does that mean in terms of value and finding you the right bets? Chaps, FA Cup, how do you approach it if you're a punter? How do you approach it if you're a bookie?
Well, you've got a couple of options, haven't you, Nick? I mean, the outright book is fascinating simply because we've got the two pre-tournament jollies playing each other. And then we've got kind of a whole raft of teams in below where I thought the shrewder punters will be looking to maybe hoover up some each way value. So it's great. And then of course with these third round games themselves offer some great opportunities. So I think it's fascinating stuff. But I'd be keen to see what the boys think about what's involving on the outright market. That's the key bit.
I think you need to approach it cautiously from both angles, bookmaker and punter. I think we've seen in the past 10 years, a lot of odds-on shots in individual games getting beat because they're actually resting players and not taking it as seriously. Right. I think the market has swung back in the other direction, which is why you're getting some fancy prices around. I know Flash fancies one. Aston Villa at Bristol Rovers 4-7. Now that's off the back of this 10-year history of teams resting players, focusing on different aspects of their league position. And now, are we seeing a swing back the other way? Is there the value there for the punters? Flash thinks so, and I would actually make him right.
We keep teeing him up, so let's get him involved. Flash, tell us why you think that way.
Well, Aston Villa versus Bristol Rovers, because Bristol Rovers are probably the worst team in the 92 out of 92 clubs at the moment, and Villa, even if they played some of their second-string players, I've got quite a good knowledge of their players, and they're far, far better. They need to get some momentum, and any other given day, I think they're a 1-3 shot. So 4-7, I think fill your boots, because they're managerless, Bristol Rovers, and they are probably one of the worst teams.
Great individual tip. And Neil, we were just talking about overall winner, and you're interested in some big price.
Yeah, I mean, it used to always be the FA Cup would be won by, you know, the final. At least one of the spots in the final would be one of the big teams. Man U, Arsenal, Chelsea used to just fill up the FA Cup final. I don't think that's quite the same anymore. Obviously, you know, teams do rest people and whatever. I'm not looking at anybody on that caption. I'm going a little bit further down. I want to back Premier teams, definitely. I'm looking at the likes of West Brom, who are at home against Cardiff. I like to bet teams that are at home in the third round. I think they're 66 to 1 outright. I quite like that. I like Norwich. I know some people have, I think the Racing Post tipped up Burnley. Norwich are playing Burnley. But 100 to 1 Norwich, you know, they've done me a few favours this season. I like Norwich, they score goals. But the one I really like, and I think the Butler is going to agree with me actually, is Sunderland. Really like Sunderland. I mean, obviously they've turned things around a little bit with the new manager. And I think 50 to 1 is a big price. I might also have a little bit on Stoke. What do you think about Stoke, Nigel?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule you off. Stoke in any cup competition got to the final last year. I agree with you on Sunderland. I mean, an amazing stat is if the Premier League was started on the day that Martin O'Neill took over, Sunderland would be top of the Premier League. That shows you what a job he's doing there. So they're a cup side. Obviously, he's got cup pedigree with the Carling Cup with Leicester. He's done a good job there. They've got a good home at home. They're a match for anybody. Good fan base. I think 50 to 1 is massive. I agree with you. I think Norwich as well, Chandler. I agree with Nigel. I think Newcastle as well at 40 to 1. I mean, yeah,
I nearly put my shortlist was getting a bit too long, but I don't mind Newcastle.
Well, that would be my three. That would be my three: Norwich, Newcastle.
What's wrong with West Brom then?
I just not got. The jury's out about them. I think that's a tough game, Cardiff. I'm not so sure. I think they may have enough quality to beat them, but Cardiff, are, in all intents and purposes, are better than some Premier League sides, I think, and they've got a good cup pedigree as well. Got to the final not so long ago, haven't they? So I think it's a tough game. I think West Brom may have enough for it, but I wouldn't be. I think it's a tough third round match. But I think the other games, I think Sunderland definitely at 50 to 1. I can see them being very similar to, remember Everton won the FA Cup under Joe Raw. They come into this a long time ago, 1995, but it was a tournament that
I can still remember it. Don't worry.
Everybody backed them. It was one of the things they started off the year really, really well. They were in great form. Joe Raw had them playing a style of football. Andy Hinchcliffe was banging in corners for big Duncan Ferguson, and they were a match for anybody. They beat big teams going into it.
Jumpers for goalposts.
yeah. But this reminds me very similar to them. It's a team that's going to be momentum, and if they get through this round, next round, I think everybody will be on them, and I think bookmakers will be cautious of them, and they'll be 16 to 1, 21 shots, and you have a nice free bet going into the latter stages.
Nigel, that's what I was going to ask you about. For punters betting at home, when you kind of tip these sort of bigger price clubs in a competition like this, are you doing it with a view to trading out later on or not?
Well, it all depends on the draw, obviously. I mean, at the moment, I think that if they've got some favourable draws, I think they'll be okay. But I don't think there's any team now in the Premier League that any of these little sides are wary of, apart from Manchester City. I think they can beat Man United on any given day. I think they can beat Arsenal on any given day. I think they beat Liverpool and possibly Tottenham. I think the Premier League now, people think that the golf, 2 years ago, Sunderland would have been 50 to 1, Norwich would have been 100 to 1. But now they're still the same price. But realistically, no, I probably wouldn't look to trade out. I hope the draw will go with me all the way through. But if they got to the semi-finals or quarter-finals and had a tough assignment, then I'd probably look to lay them in the match rather than to lay them on the outright market.
I have a view on this actually, Nick. I quite often find myself talking to poker players about sports betting, and they'll say to me, "Oh, I back this at a massive price. I back this at 68 to 1 on Betfair, or not 68, 65 probably, and it's into 32, and I can green out." Yuck! Don't do that. Why would you do that? Like, they've got some good value. Now they just want to give it straight away, just to lock in some kind of you know, they'd be better off to just, if they were going to do that kind of thing, just back them match by match, and just stop betting them match by match when you've decided that you don't want them to win any more matches.
Flash, what do you think about that?
I think I'll go with Liverpool, to be honest. I mean, Liverpool in the semi-final of the other cup. I think they can beat anyone on their day. I expect them to win against Oldham. So again, straight away they're going to be into the 4th round, and they've got a long history with Kennedy Dalglish in the FA Cup. So I think they've got nothing else to play for. I expect Man City probably knock them out in the League Cup. So I see Liverpool as big danger.
Big danger, and they're at 7-1. Obviously, how big is the FA Cup for you guys nowadays? Because it went through a period of being not quite so fashionable. Yeah. Has this Manchester draw reignited it a bit?
I think people still get very excited about third round of the FA Cup. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it's still massively on everybody's radar. I mean, I think this draw has opened it up for some people. I mean, look at that. It's just wide open, isn't it? I mean, the best backed teams at this stage.
I was thinking when Man United lost 9-1 to win a major domestic trophy.
And we've just pushed them to 9 now. Spurs are the best backed team at the moment, 8-1. Flash has pointed out Liverpool. I think they've got a great chance. Everton, would you believe, prior to the third round draw with our biggest loser, now they look as though they're a team going nowhere. So there are plenty of runners in this field. And when you get the likes of Channers and the Butler mentioning, Newcastle and Sunderland, it's quite a deep field, this now, isn't it? And it's a really good event.
Let's look at a couple of the individual games. We've got 4 televised matches. We'll run through them quickly for you. Birmingham Wolves, I think, is the first one.
4, yeah.
I don't know if we've got the prices on that. I mean, they are magically, yeah. So
first of all, I'd say it's a disgrace that they haven't actually shown any of our non-league teams that are going through, because I can't imagine anyone wants to watch this.
Is that your league?
Yeah, that's our league, the league that we sponsor.
As well.
Just to make sure
you've got a fantastic tie at Fleetwood. Fleetwood are taking on Blackpool, their local neighbours. To focus on the match in hand, though, I mean, Birmingham Wolves, I mean, when this is put on at 12 o'clock in the Premier League, nobody tunes in. So why on earth they're picking this for an FA Cup game, I do not know.
They haven't mixed it up very much.
Big game for Wolves.
They certainly haven't. Yeah. But I would say the prices, it's one of those games that you look at and say that the prices look about right, and any of those 3 things can happen. They're all odds against.
It's hard to see any value there, isn't it? Really?
There's been a move in this game, actually, boys. There's
really?
been a move for under 2.5 goals.
Oh, right. Well, that doesn't
surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me.
Which is quite unusual. I think everybody's taking the same view. Obviously, my firm sponsor Wolves. I'm behind Mick McCarthy here, but I
so they're your team. It's our league and your team.
Our league, your team, whatever. I mean, and probably Nick's team's old Birmingham. But I mean, at the end of the day, I do
I'm
think
sponsoring Bolton from now on. They done me a favour the other day.
Wolves will be trying I was going to say Wolves will be trying 10 men here, but they need more than 10 men on the field at the moment. They're really in trouble, Wolves. They need to produce something. I just think it's got border written all over it. But I do back up Al here, no doubt about it.
Do we have Nigel? Are you around? Just wondering what Nigel
he's gone.
He's gone. We've lost him.
Game.
We've lost him. So that's the first game. Do we have Nigel? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, I've got you.
The dogs weren't barking for this game.
What do you think about this one?
I agree with the boys in the office. In the studio. I can't believe that they've chosen this one. I think it's under 2.5 goals banker. That's my move behind the 2.5 goal there. But I mean, one thing you've got to know about the FA Cup third round is that years ago, people say the underdogs have their day and they beat the Premier League teams. It doesn't happen anymore. Even when the teams put out the reserve sides. I mean, there's only one team last year who got beaten in the third round by a team outside the Premier League. One Premier League team lost, and that was actually West Brom Channels. So. I think.
Yeah, I've crossed them off the list. Don't worry, Nigel. I've changed it into Newcastle.
Yeah, I think it's. You look at these prices, how they're going to put out the reserve teams, all that. But I still think they've got enough quality. And when our prices came up, I actually made Wolves 15-8 to win the match. So slightly bigger than 2-1 in some places, maybe a bit of a smidgen of value for Wolves, but they've got so much important things going on in the Premier League that they might look at this game as a bit of an inconvenience, despite it being a local derby. So for that case, I think that the under 2.5 goals could make a appeal. My only worry with that is that a draw Wolves won't be happy with a draw. They want to go and win it. I can't see any value for them to have a replay, especially the position they are in the Premier League relegation fight.
Nigel, we've just talked about Bristol Aston Villa a little bit, but take us through it, will you? Flash really likes Villa. He thinks that they're a little bit too short. Yeah,
I do as well. I think. I mean, if you look at the Asian markets, I mean, we talk about the Asian markets quite a lot. There's 4 teams in Asia that are dramatically under the English markets. That's Norwich at home to Burnley. They're around about 10 to 11 in Asia, and you can back them here at just sort of 195, 196, just under even money. Villa away at Bristol Rovers are short. You could get 4 to 6. They were 8 to 13. I had them in as 8 to 15 shots. So I agree with Villa there. And the other 2 teams that are short are Bolton away after their win, and Manchester City at home to Manchester United, which we'll probably come on to, which I think is the biggest game of the lot. So Villa, everybody's saying that Villa are going to be, I think, their reserve team done well in the Carling Cup, beaten some Premier League sides, and I think they're much stronger for Bristol Rovers, who Bristol Rovers and AFC Wimbledon have been popular picks this week in the Bet Butler office to go down from the League Two. So it shows you how weak the punters think those two sides are.
And so how much action do you get for the underdogs in these televised games?
You get fivers and tenors unless there's been an outright tip for a team at a big price, and people like Neil have suggested that something's value. But I would say in this game, the way that I would look at this game and what I said to Flash beforehand, I actually saw Bristol Rovers in their last game at Barnet, and I went to watch them, and that was one of the poorest performances that I've seen this season. And bear in mind, I watch football quite a lot lower down.
You're going to say, bear in mind, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Well,
let's move on to
that's part of the joke. But one thing I would say about that Aston Villa price very quickly, if Bristol Rovers were at home to Crawley in their division, Crawley would be around 8 to 11, 4 to 6.
Isn't that interesting?
And you're getting 4 to 7 for a Premier League team.
Fantastic. Let's move on to the big game, shall we? The two Manchesters have been drawn together, as I'm sure you all know. How are they betting on this one? Surely this is hugely dependent on the lineups.
Well, I think that's the key bit. You've mentioned it already. I mean, most people though will toss the form book out the window and just take a view as they see the teams walk out. I think for anyone to just assume that United are going to roll over here and just let City trample over them, it's a complete myth. That's not going to happen. So I actually watched that game throughout City and Liverpool the other day. I thought Liverpool actually controlled most of the game. It was a bizarre result, really, 3-0. They were at the races, and I don't think City have just been steamrolling sides. I mean, for me, this is just a game to be a bookmaker. I like the prices. I like it. I don't mind taking any of those bets, and I'm more than happy to see money for City at 11 to 10 and even money. No problem at all.
Do you know, I would also say, I think that if you're betting on anything, you need to look at the two extremes of where people have shaped their views. And if we were to start being positive about Manchester United at Newcastle, and it's probably a very hard thing to do, but in the first half, in the first 30 minutes, first half an hour, they actually had the most chances in the game. 2 of the Newcastle goals were scored from things that United couldn't do anything about. The free kick is taken and it goes in. You know, they weren't at fault for that apart from giving away the free kick. And then there was a freakish goal at the end. So actually, if you look at that and say, well, maybe they could have just lost 1-0 on the night. They didn't perform well offensively on the night. They didn't attack well. But has there been too much overreaction to that? I think you definitely need to look at that. And,
the other way.
And as Russ points out, they will line up before this game, and there's no way they're going to roll over. And maybe that has gone to a value price now.
Flash, what do you think about the big game? Are you buying Man United?
You can't. It's impossible. And you've played this game 3 times. You might get 3 different results. So I'm with Russ all the way. You just dodge and watch this as a spectacle. Going back to the other night with Newcastle, it ain't often you can have like half a pop at Sir Alex, but Newcastle had such a high line, knowing that Berbatov was the furthest man forward and he's not going to run away from you. So for me, it was one of the worst Man United performances I've seen probably this season and maybe in the last few years. I don't think it'll happen again, but Man City, Man United, anything can happen. So I'd definitely leave it alone and may the best team win, or draw, or lose.
You know
what I mean?
Neil, do you feel the same? Do you feel the same way about it?
The chances of me having a bet on this are very slim, I would say. I can't see me having a bet unless there's a massive move in the prices. If Man City got back down to 4 to 5 or something ridiculous, which can't happen. I guess I might lay them then. But
It's interesting that pros don't really fancy this, but presumably everybody watching this show will be desperate to bet on this game,
I just
won't
think that when the teams line up here, I mean, I think the consensus here is that Man City are the better side, but when you've got world-class players on the pitch, which United inevitably will, they could easily go 1-0 up, couldn't they? There's nothing stopping it happening at all. And then, of course, you look at the City probably being 7-2 very quickly, and the whole thing changing around. And when you've got these top players on the field, it's very hard to make an educated guess about what's going to happen.
And what you're saying there, Nick, there are thousands of games to choose from every week,
but not only that,
on all divisions in all countries. I mean, this is not one the bookies are going to get wrong very often.
Not only that, I wouldn't deter anyone from having a bet on the game. That would be ridiculous in my position. But we're talking about the win-draw-win market, which has been overanalyzed, doesn't have much value in it, as we've just established between the 4 of us. But people will sit before this game and say, well, is there a first goal scorer that's slightly playing
One of
out
the
of position.
specials with Blue Square.
Yeah,
That's what they'll be
exactly.
saying,
There are hundreds of markets that you can bet on in that game that probably represent more value than the win-draw-win.
Okay, so now I'm getting desperate for somebody who wants to bet on this game. Nigel, do you want to bet on this game?
Yeah, I have a bet.
Go on.
I mean, I've got to make a case for Man City. I don't care what the boys say there. I think Manchester United got so many injuries. Even if Manchester City rest their first 11, they're still big enough to beat Manchester United. I think they're in a different league at the moment to Manchester United in every department. I think the goalkeeping area is the biggest problem that Manchester United have, where Manchester City are just so confident. If it wasn't for the goalkeeper in midweek against Liverpool, they could have been 2-0 down before they scored the first. He makes an absolute massive difference. I think their home form is just fantastic, unbeaten all season, won every game. I just can't see any way that anyone can make any case for Manchester United, regardless of the team. If they had a whole 25 players to choose from, maybe so. Reserves against reserves. But Man United reserves at the moment, I'd fancy anybody giving them a game. So I can only be a backer of Manchester City, and I think Manchester City will win quite convincingly.
Lads, the thing is with Man City, the other night against Liverpool, I'll go with Russ. I thought if he was going to bet in play, Liverpool by far the better team, and yet for some reason they've ended up losing the game 3-0. So you take the last two performances of Man City, they haven't scored a goal, and then against Liverpool bossed the whole game, and yet come out losing 3-0. And I would say that Liverpool were very good. So I think they're flattering to deceive a little bit, and they're going to lose Toure. They're going to, both of them, Kolo and Yaya, and there's no Gareth Barry. So I think that they're going to be under strength as well.
And that's why, Nick, it's good to be a bookmaker in this game. That's exactly why you want to be a bookie. It's a great game.
Who's ever judged a game by saying there's no Gareth Barry? Come on.
Where are you going to be tomorrow afternoon, Russ? Are you going to a game?
I'm going to Spurs versus Cheltenham, actually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that should be... I'm looking forward to it as well. I mean, Cheltenham are bringing, I think, 63 coaches down. It'll be one of their big days out of the year. Spurs actually exhausted as well, so it'll be interesting.
I was going to say 63 fans then.
Coaches, yeah. Not people... And these aren't people who actually G'ing them up on the side, coaches as in trainers. These are actually coach loads, I should say.
Oh, that'd be fun. And Alan, are you watching one of the non-league teams?
I am. I'm actually dressing up as the Wrexham mascot, Rex the Dragon.
Oh, this is very important news.
Yeah. And it's due to a forfeit. In the second round, I said that they wouldn't beat Brentford, and a few of their players got onto Twitter and said, if we do, wherever we are in the third round, you've got to dress up as our mascot. Fantastic. Now, I actually thought at the time it meant holding the captain's hand and wandering out like a child, which might have been a bit more humiliating than what I've actually got to do, which is dress as a dragon. So I'll be doing that down at Brighton,
and
we can certainly.
It's 20 years, yeah, since Wrexham.
20 years and a few days since they beat my Arsenal team. So it's just an FA Cup history and an anniversary that I'm commemorating by dressing up as a dragon. So
fantastic stuff. Excellent. Well, you want to stick with the Punter because it's the only place you'll see a bookie dressed as a silly, cuddly toy. I promise that'll happen next week. We're going to do the other sport after the break. Keep it with us. Welcome back to the Punter. We're deep in the weekend's action, and we're going to switch our attention to horse racing, although perhaps not so much on this weekend because no massive races. Although, Alan, there's a event you want to draw us attention.
Well, we sponsor the all-weather racing at for the 3 arena tracks during January and February, and every Saturday during January and February we've got our sprint series at Lingfield. There are no early prices up at the moment, but the declarations are down, and you can back top jockey, top trainer, and it's really good. It's lower quality racing, but it's certainly very exciting over these 2 months, and obviously helps out when any other meetings are abandoned, and Sandown could be in doubt tomorrow. I think there's been a lot of rain. So.
Punter's bread and butter, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
So it's good.
Absolutely.
Good
it's very good stuff.
Well, we don't have a big race this weekend, but it is the turn of the year. Kempton's out of the way, and people really start focusing on the festival now. So let's talk a little bit of Cheltenham. Neil Channing, you've had your first anti-post bet.
I have, yes. I backed this horse that, it made the news, this horse a little bit. Vola La Vedette.
Yes.
I don't know whether you saw the race in Ireland. It beat a horse that I backed last year to try and win the Stayers Hurdle last year in Murad. And yeah, it's going to run probably. The trainer's he's a bit funny. He's not one for really cooperating with the press. hasn't really come out and said what his Cheltenham target is. But I think it's going to be the David Nicholson's Mares Hurdle, which is the race. I don't know whether you remember. It's the race that Quevega wins every single year, basically. Right. I love betting each way generally on the horses, and I just think this is a race where there aren't too many runners. And it's nice to see something come and challenge Quevega, and I think Vol La Vedette. I haven't had 2 million at 28 to 1, but I did miss that. Yeah, I took about, I think I took 9 to 1, and I bet it on the exchanges. I took some 9 to 1, some 8 to 1. I was just looking in the paper now. I think Hills and Ladbrokes are 4 to 1. You can still get a bit of 5s each way. So, but I think each way, you know, I would have a lot more on each way at a smaller price to have the place.
It's a very uncompetitive race, that, in fairness. It's a good race to have each way back, in fairness.
It's the race that I've looked at, and how can we get Quevega beat? You know, and there's no strength in depth in that race over the last few years.
It's always hard. Every year I try and get this Quevega beat.
Me too.
It never works.
And just give us a view of when do people really start backing on Cheltenham? When do the anti-post bets really start to pick up?
Well, I think it's actually the back end of January when people start to because that's when the announcements of the Cheltenham previews start, and basically all of the media start building up about, you know,
those previews are great, aren't they? How many of those do you do in a year?
Well, there's probably hundreds of them. I know I get involved in about 6 or 7. I'm sure Al does. I mean, everybody's got their opinion. I mean, it's, you know, I'm sure Channel's your appeal on a panel or two, won't you? You'll be
I
there.
don't know. I turn up as a punter to these things. They're great.
I do think that punters do start stepping involved, and I think when the firms like the Sporting Bets and Blue Squares and the other firms as well start going non-run and no bet, that really does open the door up for people. So I think we're starting to get to that point now, Nick. I think in about the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll see some significant anti-post.
Well, also the other thing, the Racing Post had a price-wise on the Gold Cup midweek, and you know, when they have those little, every now and then they'll revisit a race, and you get a little spurt of activity. I see this week they put up one. I was almost going to back it myself, and then I kind of now I don't really want to. Captain Chris each way, I thought was
too publicly touted.
I don't know. I don't like to do that.
Let's check out what Nigel thinks about it. Nigel, are you on Cheltenham already in anything, or are you forming a view, or is it too early for you?
No, I think Tottenham will win and beat them easy. I'm sorry, the racing. To be honest with you, I don't really look at the racing. I listen to people like Channers and the meetings coming up and all the different preview nights and form my opinion on what people do on the day rather than advance, because you know it's very hard to say. Horses could get injured. Lots of things could happen from now till March. So it's really on the day that I look at the betting on that, and when I'm there and I'm listening to the people involved, because I'm not really an expert on the horse racing market, but I know a lot of people around there who I follow who tell me what to do on the day rather than actually in advance.
Right. And guys, just quickly before we move on the Gold Cup, because that's obviously the big race. Any moves or anything that we should know about?
Well, I mean, we've seen Coto Star has been a double figure price for this race, and now I think we're around about 4 to 1.
Yeah, I mean
that definitely counts as a move.
Yeah, that's been a move. But I mean, it's, you know, 2 remarkable performances. I still think that the favourite is the one to beat.
Well, the other big story, of course, is Grand Cru.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
the time from that race was actually faster than the Gold Cup. And off the back of that, obviously has every chance.
I think the owner sort of said he wants to go for the Gold Cup, but maybe the other connections are perhaps leaning towards perhaps the RSA.
Yeah, and that does not make it a terrible bet for the RSA Chase, though, because we don't know if it's.
Well, this is actually. If I can give you another little tip that
something that we offer as a special offer at Blue Square.
This is what we want to hear.
You can name any horse, and we will give it a price to win
any
at the
race.
Cheltenham Festival.
Oh, okay, all right.
To win at the Cheltenham Festival. So it eliminates that question.
That's really good.
I like that question. Actually, to be honest, as a punter, I love that question because
some people do.
I
does
like
offer you that extra
chance.
No,
it's very good, Alan. I don't like to knock Blue Square.
I don't want to hear negativity. I like it. I think that's good for punters.
Have I got 2 seconds to say something else?
You've got 2 seconds.
Okay.
Watch them
no,
go.
all I was going to say is what I love is the second guessing where they're going to go. I don't think Grand Cru will run in the RSA, so I'm going to back Bob's Worth each way in that race. At the prices now at about 13 to 2, and I expect that to go favourite in the next few weeks.
Good tip. We will have lots more Cheltenham for you between now and March, of course. Now, something that is really starting to kick off is the NFL, because it's playoff time, a sport that I love, and if you don't back on it yet, it is a great opportunity to have some fun. Neil, you count as our resident NFL expert. How do you
Well,
feel?
I don't know about that. I don't know whether I count as an expert. I think last week, the show before Christmas, I said it was the last week of the season when we had 2 weeks left. So that's about as much as an expert as I
I
am.
rescind my comment.
Terrible.
Let's talk about the overall picture first. So to win the Super Bowl, these are the odds.
Every
Green
week
Bay Packers are very short.
Every week I get the same impression from this. It's just a static, pretty dull market. You made a point that San Fran, which I'm kind of cursing. I sort of half looked at them a few weeks ago at 33-1. I think 12s is a fair price, and I would agree with you that Green Bay are a bit skinny. But I'm much more of a game-by-game man on the NFL these days.
How big is the NFL as a betting market for you guys?
It's let's beat around the bush. It's not huge because we don't see enormous individual wages. I think it's popular. There's lots of specials on there. People like betting on the points, quarter points. So it's a great in-play sport. It hasn't really translated into it being a gigantic betting event like it would be.
Would you say that was because of the times? Because I just think that maybe Sunday evening's not the best time.
Yeah, sometimes it conflicts with some Spanish
football.
football. That would see more money than that.
I'll tell you what, that's a good point. As the Spanish football's become more popular, I think it's cost the NFL. There's another interesting thing, because Russ and I have a background of working in the spread betting industry. And Alan, of course, sorry, and the statements go out on a Monday morning. People used to bet on NFL to try and get themselves so that they didn't have a negative balance for Monday morning when they'd have to send the check in.
That's cheeky buy the shirt.
Yeah. That was the last desperate thing you could bet on the week.
But it's wildly competitive, Nick. It's terrific at the moment. Yeah,
and
very good.
The playoff games obviously are really interesting. So game by game is what you like to do. Give us a pick for.
Well, there's 4 games this weekend.
Yeah.
There's 2 games which involve enormous favourites. We've got New Orleans, who just win every week and seem to be very impressive. They bashed up the Detroit Lions earlier on in the season by 15 points. This week, the handicap has gone up already. It went up.
They're only 6-1 on, but you can also bet with points on.
Yeah. They open up a 9.5 point favourite. They're heading towards 11 now. I can see them going even higher. I mean, I have some Twitter people I follow. They tell me 85% of bets in this game on the handicap are going one way. This is a handicap. It's supposed to be each of 2, 50-50. Right. Yeah. It's not working that way. It's going 85% of the bets, even at -10.5, -11, -11.5, are going for the Saints. And I can't see that changing. The public can't see past the Saints. The Lions got beat by them in a game where the Lions came into it totally bashed up with all kinds of injury problems earlier in the year. Things didn't really work out for them. I think the Lions, it looks good value for me. I'm gonna oppose the Saints. I'm going to take the Lions plus the points.
What's the total points line in that game?
Total points in that game is 38.
Sorry, no,
58.5.
I know this actually. It's the highest.
58.5
in round 1 playoff history. It's
58.5. I was listening to someone yesterday on a podcast, and they were saying they could see it going to 60, and if it got to a key number of 60, they'd look to go under. I think when you get to that stage, 58.5, 60 doesn't really make that much difference. I mean,
Yeah, the defence have either gone home or they haven't.
Exactly.
Pick one more game for us. We've got time.
Okay. Well, the other big story this year that everyone keeps talking about is this Tim Tebow. He's the worst quarterback anyone's ever seen in their life, and he plays for Denver. But Denver had a little streak about 5 weeks ago where they won 3 on the spin, and it was all down to Tim. Come on, Timmy, and everybody got very excited. It was all to do with this.
Is he the Theo Walcott of the NFL?
He is basically, yeah. That's
a winner, though. He's a real winner.
Oh well, that's not Theo Walcott.
In the last couple of weeks, he's been horrible, absolutely horrible. Now this game's completely different. We were talking about the other game's got 58.5 points. This game is yesterday it went from 34.5 down to 34. This is going to be 33.5, one of the lowest games for total points in playoff history. So how can a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have got all kinds of injury troubles, be as big as a 9-point favourite? They opened 7.5 on the handicap. They're now a 9-point favourite. And again, my friends in Vegas are saying to me, 75% of the bets are for the Steelers. I want to be with the Broncos getting the points because I think in a really low-scoring game, I just like to have a 9-point start, really.
Yeah, and it's for people that don't bet on the NFL, that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? That you don't think that the Broncos are going to win that game very often, but you think that with the points. I actually think
of the 2 games, if I had to nail on one of the outsiders to win it, I would rather be with the Broncos to win their game. I think they could actually win the game because it is going to be a low-scoring game.
Okay, I'll give you even money on that for as much as you like.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. A little bit of NFL for you, something a little bit different. We've got the last part of the show coming up where we're going to get our punters to put their money where their mouth is and give you the picks that you need for the weekend. So keep it right here with the punter. Welcome back, great to have your company for the final section of the Punter today where we give you the tips that you need for this weekend from our punters. But first of all, we wouldn't let the show finish without a little bit of reality TV, would we? Celebrity Big Brothers started. Terrific. I didn't know who any of them were.
What price is Jason Donovan?
That's the key question. I'm going to
ask the butler.
We'll get our money back.
Nigel, what price is Jason?
Well, he's he's a lot shorter than he was when Strictly Come Dancing, and he's not even in it. So there you go. I mean, he started off last night with the usual mixture of Z-listers going into the house. I mean, the early favourite is Natalie Cassidy, the girl from Sonia from EastEnders. The girl who never knew she was pregnant 9 months into it. She's the favourite. She's a 2-to-1 shot to win it round about that kind of price. At the moment, she's on a secret mission, so the public have sort of got well into her, literally punting her because she's doing quite well at the moment. But that novelty will last about 24 hours, and she's a false favourite in my opinion. Reality TV shows, if you look at them last year, all of them were won by males, apart from the X Factor, which was won by a girl group. But all these shows are usually predominantly won by males, and a male to win it is 8 to 11. Early prices seems a little bit of value. The first all the reality TV shows, the first eviction's always been a female, so that may be a decent case. So if you're looking for that to win it, I think Kirk Norcross, the guy from The Only Way Is Essex, makes appeal at 5 to 1.
Oh, I know who he is now. I'm staring at him. I don't know who this is.
Gareth Thomas, the Welsh rugby legend, has come across very well in his first sort of few hours in the house. I think he could be a decent bet at 5 to 1. And the one I would throw at you at a big price is Frankie Kokotsa at 16 to 1. The guy who'd been kicked out of X
Some people
Factor.
would snort at you for saying that,
Well, the thing is, Chan, is when you go into these shows and everybody has a preconceived idea of you. The only way you can go is you can either win it or you go out first.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's got the fact that he's wrong and he's had his chance. He's mixed it. He could go in there and turn the public around completely, and he could either go first or he could win it. At that kind of price, I'd take a chance on him. So
Nigel, our bookies in studio have only got him at 10 to 1. I want to know what that's all about.
I mean, they're being cautious. I mean, they're being very, very cautious. I mean, you've got to shop around, obviously, to get the prices. But I mean, take note, 10 to 1. But even double-figure prices, I'd make a small case for him because I don't think it's going to take much winning this competition.
Nigel, who's Romeo?
He's from Solid Crew.
So Solid Crew.
Oh.
I'm ashamed to know that.
I got a supplementary question then.
Who was
so Solid Crew?
Nigel, they were a rap band. They had a top #1 hit in about 2001.
Rap.
Rap. Excellent.
Really?
Yeah.
Rap.
/ hip hop. Yeah. Nigel, can I tell you my favourite special in this TV show?
Okay.
My favourite special is the odds for there to be a physical fight on air.
Physical.
With a horribly stingy 6 to 1, but the fact that someone's offering it just makes me compelled to back it. You should be able to name who it's between and what the result would be as well, I think.
Well, I think Natasha Giggs might be the favourite of a row with one of the other girls, one of the footballers' wives in there if I was having a bet, but I couldn't be tempted at 6 to 1.
Nige, if you were in there, I'd back that all day.
Be 6 on. And still a bet.
Thanks, Nigel. Great stuff. We'll look forward to your Jason Donovan of the Celebrity Big Brother as the weeks go on. We're going to get to the tips now, and I think we'll start with Flash, seeing as he's on a roll, and also because he's chomping at the bit over the NFL. Flash, you weren't too happy with some of the stuff Mr. Channing was talking about.
No, I'm not having Denver. Tebow is an absolute fake.
He's terrible, I agree.
Pittsburgh Steelers all the way. I don't care. I just cannot have Denver winning that game. They might win it on the spread, but I don't see them progressing at all. In fact, I see the 3 favourites, Steelers, Saints and Giants to go through. And I think Cincinnati will win in Houston. The Bungles are no longer the Bungles, and I think they'll go through. I've just wrote down that the AFC between the Patriots and the Steelers, as where the value is, and the class is without doubt the New Orleans Saints and Green Bay. So, I mean, if you want to have a value bet, then you go Patriots at 4s or Steelers at 14s, and then maybe see one of the. They'll be smaller than that in the final against either the Green Bay or New Orleans.
Great stuff, Flash. Now let's get on to your football tips for this weekend. We know that you're pretty hot at the moment, so people will want to know what is your 5 for this weekend.
My 5 are Stoke to win Gillingham. I think Stoke too professional, and they'll be ready. And Pulis will have them right up for it because it is an opportunity to progress. I mean, Villa, they're like a 25-star win against Bristol Rovers. I just can't work them out. I mean, I used to coach an under-16 side that I would take on Bristol Rovers with. I've got Carlisle to beat Leyton Orient. Long trip. Carlisle very good at home, and I'll take them to beat Leyton Orient. Have had a few tough games recently. Blackpool to beat Fleetwood. Because again, going along the Stoke theory, Holloway gets his teams ready. There'll be no complacency. It's a local derby, so to save face, they've got to make sure they perform. So I'd take Blackpool to beat Fleetwood. And the other one is Middlesbrough to beat Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury were going well, and in the last 2 weeks, I think they've shipped in 6 goals. They've not won, and Borough are flying high in the Championship, and they are at home. So Borough, Blackpool, Carlisle, Villa, and Stoke. Just the 5.
Fantastic stuff, Flash. We'll, of course, update people on how you get on. And thanks so much for being part of the show today, Flash.
Cheers, boys. Good luck, eh?
Cheers.
Good luck. And moving on to Mr. Neil Channing's charity bets. You've already given the reason for a couple of these.
Yes.
Let's take us through them.
Okay, well, it didn't on the caption there. It doesn't have the handicap. So Detroit to beat the Saints. I do mean on the handicap at 10 to 11.
So
I mean,
with the points, which is at the moment you said plus 10. Plus
in
10
the Detroit Lions game, it's currently 10.5. If you shop around, you can probably get 11, and on the day you might get 11.5. I think it's going that way. Denver opened up 7.5. That one's hovering around 9 at the moment. That could easily go to 9.5. I would definitely shop around and wait until the last minute because I think the money's all for the favourites. I don't terribly disagree with Flash. Pittsburgh are obviously a better American football team than Denver, but we are talking about on the handicap, and we do get a 9.5 point start in a 34-point game. And Tim Tebow is clearly a terrible quarterback, but that's why they're a 9.5 point underdog.
Okay.
Sunderland to win the FA Cup.
Sunderland to win
60
the FA Cup.
quid at 50 to 1. I'll try and smash us right out of it. These poor charity kids, you know, I mean, let's at least give them a good Christmas next year.
Exactly. Well, that's your responsibility. And Alan, just quickly, you've got another match that you want to flag up for us?
Yeah, people will know that. Some people will know that I was very hot on Luton over the Christmas period against Kettering. I mean, they were a very short price. They were 4-1 on, but some of our competitors stupidly put up extra bets on the game. So fill your boots. But this has come back the other way. Now, Luton beat a 9-man Tamworth team and have just beaten the worst team in the league twice. So that's 3 wins, 9 points from 9. But they now play against a Newport team that have already drawn at Wrexham and have won at Fleetwood. And you can get 13-2 Newport. It's gone too far the other way with Luton, and I would certainly take Newport at a big price. Just one thing on the Stoke against Gillingham game. The Gillingham owner was asked to give a colour piece in the paper when Stoke got to the FA Cup final and said, Tony Pulis is the worst man I've ever dealt with. I do not wish to contribute to this article in any way. There's no doubt Stoke will be up for that game.
That's outrageous. Russ, you looking forward to a big weekend?
Yeah, looking forward to it. That's Spurs tomorrow, White Hart Lane, to see Cheltenham arrive. I think just should be a great occasion for Cheltenham. From my own personal point of view, I like Hull to beat Ipswich. They've given up now, Ipswich, haven't they? I think if Nottingham Forest can score 3 goals against them, I'm sure Hull can do something similar. Short price, but they'll do the business. You boys all out at live sporting events. I'm going to be at home clicking buttons, central heating on full, darts on BBC. How bad can it be? Come and join me at Spurs.
I'll be there, and I think lots of our viewers will too. Lots of luck this week. I hope you have a fantastic start to the new year. My thanks to Flash, the betting butler, Neil Channing, Alan Alger, and Russ Wiseman. Take care, and lots of luck this weekend.